Harold and Denise Carter had spent most of their lives working hard in Ohio. Harold had been a mechanic for over 30 years, and Denise worked as a school secretary. They were careful with money, never taking big risks, always planning for the future. When Harold retired at 68, they decided to move to Florida. They wanted warm weather, quiet mornings, and a simple life near the water. They found a small house in Cape Coral. It was not fancy, but it was clean, peaceful, and close to a canal. They paid for it in full, using their savings and the profit from selling their old home. To them, owning a home outright meant safety. No mortgage, no stress, just comfort. For the first year, everything was perfect. They made friends with neighbors, went for evening walks, and spent mornings drinking coffee on their back patio. Harold liked fishing, and Denise started gardening again. Life felt earned and stable. What they did not know was that someone had already noticed them. Miles away in Miami, a man named Victor Reyes ran a quiet but very profitable operation. Victor did not rob banks or break into houses. He worked from a laptop, a phone, and a network of people who knew how to bend systems without getting caught. Victor specialized in real estate fraud. He focused on properties that were owned outright, especially by older homeowners who had moved from other states. These homes were easier targets. There were fewer alerts, fewer protections, and often less familiarity with local scams. Victor's team used public records. Florida made property records easy to access. Within minutes, they could see who owned a home, whether it had a mortgage, and even mailing addresses. One afternoon, a member of Victor's team, a young woman named Carla, found the Carter home. No mortgage, recently purchased, owners over 65, out-of-state origin, quiet neighborhood. It was exactly what they looked for. Victor studied the file. He saw the purchase date, the names, and the lack of any liens. He smiled. This was going to be simple. The first step was identity control. Carla created a fake ID in Harold's name using information pulled from public databases. She also set up a new email account that looked similar to Harold's real one. The difference was small, just one letter changed. Most people would not notice. Next, Victor's team prepared fake documents. They created a fraudulent deed transfer. It showed Harold and Denise selling the property to a shell company that Victor controlled. The paperwork looked real, the signatures were forged carefully, and the documents were notarized using a compromised notary who was part of the network. The documents were submitted to the county recording office. In many Florida counties, as long as documents appear complete and fees are paid, they are recorded without deep verification. Within days, the ownership of the Carter home, at least on paper, had changed. Harold and Denise knew nothing about this. They continued their normal routine, morning coffee, grocery trips, phone calls with their children. The house still felt like theirs because physically nothing had changed, but legally everything had. Victor moved to the next step, sale. He listed the property online using a real estate platform. The listing was priced slightly below market value to attract quick interest. He posed as the owner through the fake email and used prepaid phones for communication. Within a week, a buyer appeared. A man named Daniel Brooks, a small investor from Tampa, saw the listing and thought it was a good deal. He contacted Harold through email. Victor responded quickly, explaining that he wanted to sell fast due to family reasons. He avoided phone calls as much as possible, claiming he had poor reception. When necessary, he used a voice-changing app. Daniel was cautious but not suspicious. The documents looked real. The price was good. The communication, while slightly off, did not seem alarming enough to stop him. They moved forward. A title company was involved, but Victor had experience with this part. He provided all requested documents. The fraudulent deed was already on record, so ownership appeared legitimate. The title company ran checks, but nothing raised immediate red flags. The sale closed. Within 3 weeks, Daniel wired the payment, over $200,000. The money moved quickly through several accounts and was gone within hours, split across different banks and digital wallets. Victor had completed another successful operation. Meanwhile, Harold and Denise were living their life, unaware that on paper they no longer owned their home. The problem began one quiet Tuesday morning. A man knocked on their door. Harold opened it, expecting a neighbor or a delivery. Instead, he found Daniel standing there with a folder in his hand. "Hi," said Daniel. "I'm the new owner of this property." Harold frowned. "I think you have the wrong house." Daniel shook his head and handed him the documents. "I bought this place 3 weeks ago, closed everything through a title company." Harold looked confused. Denise came to the door and joined him. "This is our house," said Denise. "We've lived here for over a year." Daniel's expression changed from polite to concerned. "I don't think so. The records show it was sold by Harold Carter." Harold's face went pale. "That's me, but I never sold anything." There was a long silence. Daniel opened his folder and showed them the deed, the signatures, the transaction details. Everything looked official. Denise's hands started shaking. "This has to be a mistake," she said. Daniel stepped back, realizing something was very wrong. "I think you need to call someone, maybe the police or a lawyer." Within hours, the situation became serious. The police arrived first. They listened, took notes, and examined the documents. They explained that this type of fraud had been increasing in Florida. "It's called deed fraud," said one officer. "Someone transfers ownership without your knowledge and sells the property." Harold struggled to understand. "But we live here. How can someone sell our house?" The officer sighed. "Because on paper, it looks like you did." Denise felt like the ground was disappearing beneath her. They contacted a lawyer the same day. The lawyer reviewed everything and confirmed their worst fear. The fraudulent deed had been recorded legally, even though it was fake. The sale to Daniel had also been processed properly from a procedural standpoint. Fixing this wouldn't be quick. "It can take months, sometimes longer. You'll need to prove the transfer was fraudulent and get the deed reversed through the court." Harold asked the question he feared most. "Do we still own our house?" The lawyer hesitated. "Physically, yes, you're here, but legally it's complicated. Right now, records show someone else owns it." Daniel, the buyer, was also a victim. He had paid real money for what he believed was a legitimate purchase. "I don't want to force you out," said Daniel, "but I also can't just lose everything I paid." The situation turned into a legal battle involving multiple parties: the Carters, Daniel, the title company, and eventually insurance providers. Weeks turned into months. Harold stopped fishing. Denise stopped gardening. Their peaceful life had been replaced with stress, paperwork, and constant worry. They had to prove they never signed the documents. Handwriting experts were involved. Digital trails were analyzed. Emails were traced. Eventually, investigators found pieces of the truth: the fake email, the forged signatures, the shell company, some of the accounts used in the transaction. But Victor was careful. He operated through layers, using people who didn't know the full picture. By the time authorities got close, he had already moved on to other targets. Harold and Denise's case moved slowly through the courts. At one point, there was even discussion about whether they would need to temporarily vacate the home while ownership was disputed. That possibility terrified them more than anything. "This is our home," Denise kept saying. "We did everything right." The lawyer continued to fight for them. Evidence piled up. The fraudulent nature of the deed became clearer. After nearly a year, the court finally ruled in their favor. The deed transfer was declared invalid. Ownership was restored to Harold and Denise. But the damage had already been done. Harold lost most of his investment. The title company faced legal action for failing to detect the fraud. The Carters lost months of peace and a sense of security that could not be easily repaired. Even after the case ended, Harold installed multiple security systems. Denise signed up for property monitoring alerts. They checked records regularly, something they never thought they would need to do. One evening, as they sat quietly on their patio again, the same place where their peaceful life once felt certain, Harold spoke softly. "I thought owning a house meant we were safe." Denise looked at the canal, the water calm and still. "I did too," she said. Miles away, Victor Reyes was already working on another file. Another house, another name, another opportunity hidden in public records. For him, it was just business. For people like Harold and Denise, it was something else entirely. It was the moment they learned that even the most solid things in life could be taken not by force, but by paperwork, silence, and time.